Hi, Lee here. So I'm going to build another guitar. This one I hope to make as perfect as I can. If you've been watching any of my other videos, you'll notice that over the last couple of years I've built 5 or 6 guitars now. So I've built a bass, a neck through electric guitar. I've tried a couple of different techniques, so building my own fretboards, putting a top on a guitar body, also painting as well and polishing. So I've tried a lot of the different techniques in my journey of sort of learning to build guitars. So I've got to the point now where this one, my plan is to take my time with this. I want to make this one perfect. Throughout all of my other guitars, there's always been a few mistakes, as you'd expect, because I'm new at doing this. So this one, hopefully I've learnt from all of those mistakes. This one, I want to be as best as I can possibly make it. If possible, I would like it to be good enough quality to sell. Obviously it's handmade, it's not as good as one of the CNC routed guitars, but I'll see what I can do and see if I can make it almost perfect. So the first thing I want to do is just show you some of the wood I've bought. So let's take a closer look at this and so you can see what I'm going to be working with over the next series of videos. So for the neck, I've decided to go for a piece of flame maple. So it's a solid maple neck with a nice flame on it. Hopefully you can see that okay. So that's really nice. I've got my flame maple top as well. So it's a book match top, which hopefully again you should be able to see okay on there. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go for a rosewood or a maple fretboard. So what I've done is I've ordered both. So I've got another piece of flame maple for the fretboard there. And also a nice piece of rosewood as well. But after looking at them, I think there's going to be too much maple. So what I might do is I think I'm going to use the rosewood fretboard for this one. Now for the body, I've actually ordered some other wood. It's on its way. So I think, what did I order? So I ordered some lime, which I think would be known as basswood. But it's English lime, I believe, is the version of that I've ordered. The other one is, I think it's pronounced sapele, which is similar to mahogany. So I've got those two coming. Again, I couldn't decide if I wanted the lighter colour wood or the darker wood. So I've ordered both pieces, and when that arrives, I'll make my decision. But that's not going to stop me from starting this one because I'm going to work on the neck first so the body can wait. I've also ordered some components to go with it. Let's take a quick look at some of those. So something new I haven't tried. I've ordered a truss rod, but this one has the adjuster at the bridge side rather than the headstock side. So I thought I'd try and do something different and put the truss rod in a different position. We'll see how that goes. I've also ordered some Spertzl machine heads, which look pretty nice. So they're pretty good. I've got a modern Fender style bridge with the 2 pivot points rather than the 6. So that's a modern style bridge. I think it's got a stainless steel resonator on the back of it. And for the electronics, rather than me soldering everything, I've tried soldering a bit. I'm not that much of a fan of soldering. So I just thought I'd buy myself a pre-made harness, which is a really nice looking harness, as you can see here. Now for the specs, I'm actually going to do a Fender style. So it's going to be a 25.5 inch scale length, which is a 648 millimeters in metric. The body is going to be Telecaster style, but it's going to be an HSS pickup configuration. So humbucker at the bridge and then 2 single coils. So HSS pickup style. I'm going to loosely base the design on a Music Man style guitar. So I don't know if you can see that okay. So it's going to be Telecaster style with HSS configuration, 25.5 inch scale length. and we'll see how we go from there. So I'm really looking forward to this build. I can't wait to get stuck in. So what I'll do here is I'll close this video now and I'll start measuring up the fretboard and we'll go from there. So I've started drawing the lines on the fretboard and on the neck. So I've got a rough design. Just to give you an idea of what I'll be doing, I'm actually going to be using the Fender scale length. So I mentioned that, 25.5 inches. But the main thing is I actually want to put 22 frets on there rather than the 21. Now, the 22 fret Fenders actually have a small overhang on the fretboard. I don't want the overhang. So what I'm doing is I'm just increasing the length of the neck by about 10 millimeters, just so I can fit the 22nd fret on and still round the edges. So if you look here, I believe the 22nd fret is actually 466 millimeters from the nut. So what I've actually done is I've increased the length to 476 millimeters, just so I can get that last fret in there and still curve the edges. So as you can see, it's slightly longer than a traditional Fender neck. So for the nut, I'm doing 43 millimeters, and for the hill, I'm doing 56 millimeters. So it's still standard size for Fender, but I've actually increased the length of the neck by 10 millimeters just to compensate, but by putting the 22nd fret in, but not having an overhang. So of course, when I build the guitar and I measure up the bridge and pickup position, I just have to make sure that they're correct and in proportion to the scale length. So I've done that already. I'm pretty pleased with it so far. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably cut out the truss rod hole while this maple is nice and square, because it's going to be a lot easier to use my router then. So I'll cut out the truss rod hole first, remembering that I'm going to be adjusting it at the bridge end. And then we'll cut out the fretboard and the neck shape, and we'll go from there. So I'm just measuring up the truss rod now, making sure that I leave that little barrel just hanging off the end, and making a mark on the length of the truss rod. So I've made my mark. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go the entire length. The truss rod is slightly thicker at this end, so I'm going to have to change the router bit just to make sure I can fit that last component in. So it looks good so far. I'll set up the router now and then we'll cut the line in. I just need to make sure how deep this is. So I'm pretty sure my router bit's correct. So yeah, it looks like this is 6 millimeters wide and it is 10 millimeters deep. So 6 mil wide, 10 mil deep. That's how deep I'm going to have to make the hole. So let's set up the router and we'll get cutting. So that cut went okay. The truss rod's in, nice snug fit, so that's perfect. I just had to chisel out a little bit of wood just because it's a slightly weird shape on the truss rod. It just tapers in a bit. So instead of using the router, I'll just get the chisel out and that fits nicely. So that's a good start. Everything's in properly. It looks good, it feels good. So the next step is I'm going to have to start thinking about cutting some of this wood away and possibly gluing the fretboard on top and then starting to do some shaping of the neck. So I'm pleased with that to start with. I'll end the video here. Join me next time when I start finishing off this neck, gluing it all together, cutting it to shape, and we'll start a lot of sanding. So I'll see you next time.